Welcome back. I wanted to do a quick video about my first week with the Bridger watch. I got it, I want to say roughly last Wednesday, something like that. So I'm just over a week of using it on a regular basis. I will say the first couple days, they were waiting on the app to be approved by the Apple Store, and the watch was really rough to use at that point. After the update came, the update to the app came, it was much more enjoyable to use. There was a lot more connection to the actual app. I noticed a lot of issues in those first couple days. But I want to talk about some of the issues I'm still seeing. I'll also talk about the things that they've talked about addressing, and let's get into it. So I'm kind of going to go through the things that I have thought that are really good about and that I have liked, and the things that need improvement. I will say that the things that need improvement, most of them have been called out by the Bridger watch team, and they are aiming to have a over the air, so like an update that comes to the watch via Wi-Fi, that they're hoping to push sometime this weekend, early next week, sometime next week, let's say. Probably is, we're pretty much at the end of the work week. I would assume that not having seen it yet or heard it yet, likely that's coming sometime early next week. So I have been wearing the Bridger watch on one arm and my old Garmin Instinct 2 on the other, and trying to kind of get a little bit of a comparison between them. What I have found, so this is, I had an Apple Watch before I moved over to the Garmin Instinct, and then now I have the Bridger watch. The Bridger watch is very similar to the Apple Watch as far as the interface goes. I feel like they have done a great job in making a really good experience, a very pleasing experience on the watch in navigating around, working through the menus. It's relatively intuitive. Garmin is not known for their UIs. Obviously, this is a very limited version of a watch. No real interactive display, no touch display for sure. Part of the reason why I got this watch was the battery life, and so we'll get into the difference between the battery lives right now. But ultimately, the experience of just utilizing the watch and the watch display for the Bridger is really nice. It's a lot closer to what you would expect on an Apple Watch, or likely what you might see on the Phoenix, the Garmin Phoenix, and those type of higher end watches, which you would expect you're paying a decent price point for. The other thing that I have really liked with the Bridger watch is the activity types. Those activities, they have a large variety of activities, including rucking, and from what I can tell, there's actually a difference between the hiking calories expended versus the just rucking calories expended, or actually, I guess I should say the hiking calories expended versus the extra calories expended you would expect from rucking with a heavy pack. It doesn't ask for the weight of the pack, probably something that could be updated, and a calculation that could be updated to maybe get a little bit more accurate. Calories on these devices in general is a gauge, it's a estimate, it's nothing that I have necessarily ever counted on, but it is nice to see like, oh, more effort was expended in that same hike, in that same walk when I calculate it with a ruck versus just like a straight up hike. And having that extra weight on my back does actually have some impact. I wanted to jump in real fast here and quickly cut in that as I was doing some of the B-roll for the activities, I realized that there is a setting on the rucking activity to go in and update the weight of your pack. Apparently I hadn't done that, so you can see that there is already a calorie difference between a Garmin hike versus the rucking activity on the Bridger watch, and likely we'll see even a bigger increase. So I'll be testing that out over the next couple of weeks, and we'll try and report back in a following video. But I do think that this is a perfect example of how you are a little bit on your own with the watch and learning about it and kind of the finer details of using this as your daily device. Additionally, logging high intensity type workouts, gym type workouts, has tracked really well. I should also mention that the tracking during that time seems to be at its most robust, which is relatively typical of any of the watches. You tend to get more accurate data. It's leveraging more of its sensors to get the data that you might want to see during that time. That's going to come into play a little bit later. The last thing that I have really liked as far as a feature goes is the flashlight. I never thought a flashlight was something that I would use on a watch, but once I got it on the Instinct, it's like something I can't live without. I use it all the time. And so it always starts off with this red light. You have kind of a middle light state, and then a low white light, and then a middle white light. Always starting off on that red light state. And ultimately, I really like the variation in color. The Instinct just has a white light. That said, it would be nice if the light remembered your last choice. And the flashlight's going to come up again in some of the cons as well. The last thing that has been really cool about being an early adopter of the Bridger watch is that, well, you're just that. You're an early adopter. I've been able to have multiple conversations with the Bridger team via email, primarily. I guess if I really wanted to give them a phone call, I could. But I have been able to talk through some of the experiences I'm having and work through some of those challenges. Other things are just, give experiences that I have been having and then talk about some of the updates that are coming to address those things. I think that's really cool to be kind of in on that ground level, to be able to have an impact on how this product is going to grow over the next couple months, years. Let's talk about some of the issues real fast. There have been a lot of issues with syncing between my watch and my phone. They regularly will kind of disconnect. It's really easy to repair them and kind of get them synced together. However, in those moments where they disconnect, you're not getting any data in the app. And there's oftentimes where the time of the watch will jump back an hour for whatever reason. You won't get any weather. So the watch does rely on the phone to get some of its data. And until you resync it, you don't have any of that data. Issue one. Second issue that I have seen is issues with step count. As I mentioned, I'm wearing 2 watches, and I am generally seeing anywhere from 50%, anywhere from 25% to 50% more steps tracked on the Instinct versus the Bridger watch. Talked with the Bridger team. This is something that they hope to be fixing with the upcoming update. Again, very cool that can be pushed over the phone. I mean, I know we recognize that is a thing that happens with most of our devices, but still, I appreciate the fact that like it's getting that update. It's a really easy thing to do, to walk through the update process, to check for updates, to get them. My hope is that next week or the week after, when I do this similar type of video of updates, I can talk through some of the improvements that I am seeing in that tracking. Until then, I will, or at least until I start seeing similar things, I will be tracking on both devices and trying to get a relative gauge. What I do notice, I mentioned the activities before, is when I'm tracking activities, they are very similar with a much smaller amount of variance, and that variance feels fairly accurate. Some things are higher on the Bridger, some things are higher on the Garmin, and if you've done any research into kind of the way that each one of these wearables look at the different health metrics, they kind of are all doing different calculations and assumptions in their algorithms. And so that like 10 to 15% difference of different metrics makes more sense to me in that context. It's once you get out of the activities and into just day-to-day living, again, step count being the big one, that you notice a significant variance, always with the Bridger watch being the lower ones. So looking forward to that update. Mapping. So the way that maps work on the phone is on the device is a little bit clunky. You need to go and select your area on the phone, pick it, and then sync it to the watch. If you forget to sync it to the watch and you're out in the field and you didn't do that, you are likely in a bit of trouble and won't be able to sync that. Again, I think these are all things that they know and are looking to change. So that's good. Additionally, the waypoints, dropping waypoints, integration with Onyx, all of that is stuff that has a lot of room for improvement. I haven't really dove into that all that much, and we'll look to do kind of more specific videos. I want to see what this next update has and what they kind of improve in that mapping experience, since it really is a key selling point for the watch. That said, the maps on the device look amazing. It's like, one, make sure you get them on there. Two, how easy or hard is it to get data to it? And three, the fact that you can't use it all during other activities. All things that are rectifiable with software updates. So we'll see how that improves in the short term and kind of long term. Integrations are a challenge right now. As I mentioned, Onyx is still an integration that is coming. I think the one that's been most important and impactful for me right now is an integration with Strava. I have asked multiple times and not really gotten a solid answer of how I could integrate with Strava. I'm assuming at this point it is just not something that will work. That said, it does integrate for me. I'm on an iOS device, so it does integrate with Apple Health. That's great. There might be a way to kind of like move an activity into Apple Health and then have that push over to Strava. I haven't fully explored that yet, but this direct integration that you might have with like a Garmin device is not happening right now. It's not working. So some of those integrations are limited, as you might expect. They did call out Strava in the very beginning, like kind of in the pre-order phase. So I know it is something they're thinking about. I just don't have any idea of like when that's coming or how to do that right now. There's definitely some workarounds that you can do, etc. But in manual tracking essentially. But right now, from the watch, tracking something on the watch and sending it over to Strava is not possible. The flashlight. So I mentioned the flashlight. Something that's always cool about the Garmin is you can turn on that flashlight with 2 taps of a button. That is not possible yet on the watch. It was one of the first things they called out. Like I said, I actually use the flashlight a ton. And so I mentioned, it was probably one of the first things I mentioned. They mentioned that it is not configurable via any of the hotkeys right now, which are, essentially like different button taps. But it is something that they plan to have, hopefully in this next software update, if not in a very near future update. So I'm excited for that. But right now, you got to go into like the apps menu and turn on that flashlight, as you kind of saw before. The last thing that is just kind of a general overarching point of friction or challenge point with using the Bridger watch, or just coming to it as an ecosystem, and it really is an ecosystem. They had to build an entire OS. Like I can, like, what they are doing as a software engineer myself, what they have done is pretty significant when you think about it. Building a whole OS, building apps within that OS, or functionality within that OS, and creating not only hardware, but then the operating system that goes on that hardware. It's impressive. And yet it can be really challenging for discoverability of what the options, or what is even capable or able to be done. What is even able to be done on the watch today, and exactly how you might do things. As I mentioned, an integration with Strava. If there's a slight workaround of how you could push an activity there, there's no documentation on that. So if you don't see the integration there, and you choose to not go exploring, you're out of luck. Similarly, the mapping integration, there is a way to get waypoints into the watch from something like OnX. Likely, this will be something I try on an upcoming bear hunt, more in depth, and maybe just do some other like practice hikes doing it. However, the reality is you kind of have to go through and discover a lot of that yourself. They are putting out more content on a regular basis for helping support, or how to use the watch, but they're starting from ground zero, or they're starting from nothing, and so they have a lot to do. Even just basic navigation, like I said, overall it's relatively intuitive, for me at least, but I know that there are many who would be pretty hesitant to use something where you can't just pull it up on a YouTube video and find it. That's one of the reasons why I'm trying to create some content around. I didn't get this device for free. In reality, I am just someone who believes in this as a concept. I love tech and I love hunting now, and so kind of bridging that gap. I also recognize that this is something that challenges a lot of hunters that I am around and talk to, that do not consider themselves very technical people, and it's something that I'm not scared of. And so not only is it something that's interesting to me, not only is it something that I think that I can help with, but I also really like this concept, this device, and this company, and believe in it being something made explicitly for hunters, and that having a huge impact in how this device is made versus this device. So I'm going to try and put out content for it as I see things, as I figure things out, put more stuff out. But from the company itself, there just is not a lot right now. There's not a lot in the wild right now. So here we are. And that could be something that might concern people or scare them away from adopting this device just yet. One more thing I wanted to jump in with. Under the issues, I realized that I forgot to mention anything about battery life. This is something that they had talked about being 38 days of battery life for the Bridger watch, and aiming for about 10 in hunt mode, utilizing maps and things like that. Right now, it's pretty far under that. They're saying it's about 28 days, I think. I think it's even less. I'm seeing about 7 days of normal use, tracking an activity a day for an hour to an hour and a half, plus just general usage of checking steps and, I don't know, messages and other random things throughout the day. It seems about every 7 days or so that I'm needing to charge it. That's a lot lower than they first talked about. They do recognize that they are looking to push out updates that improve that. My guess is that's going to be a little bit longer term. Their goal is to get it closer to that 30 plus days by hunting season. We'll see how they do on that. Ultimately, this hasn't affected me all that much. It's not going to affect me in the upcoming hunt, but it is kind of a thing to consider when you think that, like, one of the reasons why I got this Instinct is that I can basically charge it before hunt and never even have to worry about it again. That said, the functionality of it's significantly less. So, just the mapping alone is feels like it's going to be considerably different for being on that hunt. So it's a trade-off, but something to consider, something to know about. It is an acknowledged thing that they're trying to improve, but just not quite where they had originally hoped. We'll see how it moves on. Back to the video. This is definitely not up to parity of a lot of the other devices that are out there right now. However, I think it can get there, and I think that the team is going to get there relatively quickly. We'll have to see. Obviously, we'll have to see how fast these updates come, how quickly they're able to smooth out some of these edges and these edge cases, and really begin to create an experience that is more integrated and impactful in the way that a lot of people have become used to using wearables. My hope is to do another update like this relatively soon. Until then, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you got one. Let me know if it's coming. And we'll catch you on the next video.